Have you ever noticed how easily we offer unsolicited opinions while believing we are simply offering gentle and supportive advice? You might hear these familiar phrases during a casual coffee chat or during a tense holiday dinner with your extended family. A close friend casually remarks that your outfit looks somewhat unpolished. A colleague subtly hints that your recent presentation felt overly emotional. A family member gently suggests that your career choices are unwise. In those quiet moments, we often tell ourselves we are helpful, yet this widespread habit conceals a much deeper psychological tension. Pointing out the imperfections of others is rarely about assisting them. Instead, it often represents a subtle form of personal control. It quietly pushes those close to us further away from us, while introducing unseen friction into our most cherished personal relationships. In this video we will examine why we feel this urge and how we can cultivate far healthier forms of genuine connection. When we feel compelled to point out someone else's mistake, we rarely do so out of pure altruism or deep compassion. Instead, this behavior often stems from a quiet desire for self-righteousness. In the exact moment you highlight someone else's visible mistake, you unconsciously place yourself on a higher intellectual pedestal. You feel composed, clear, and mentally superior to the other person. This cognitive dynamic creates a subtle sensation of personal satisfaction, which very few people are willing to acknowledge openly in public. Consider what happens when someone rejects your well-intentioned advice. You might feel a sudden surge of irritation and quiet resentment. You think to yourself that they are simply ungrateful for help, but the hidden message behind your internal anger is strikingly clear. I am right, you are wrong, and you should follow me. You are not truly trying to liberate the other person. You are merely attempting to validate your own preferred cognitive framework. When we observe a behavior that conflicts with our internal standards, our psychological balance is instantly disrupted and severely shaken. This friction triggers a state of deep cognitive dissonance within us. To eliminate this internal tension, we instinctively try to fix things. We demand that the other person align with our personal expectations. Therefore, pointing out mistakes is often an attempt to calm our anxiety rather than a thoughtful act of service to someone else. It functions like an internal projector, casting our private mental blueprints onto external reality, creating a heavy cognitive translation tax on our daily interactions. The psychologist Thomas Gordon described this dynamic using a concept called the behavior window. He explained that our reactions to others are rarely about their actions. Instead, our reactions are determined by whether their actions inconvenience us. If you feel irritated when a partner leaves dishes in the sink, it reveals your personal need for structure and order. If you feel annoyed by how a colleague presents their work, it highlights your personal standards of professional performance. Every flaw you point out in another person reveals a hidden, unfulfilled need within your own mind. Now, let us turn our attention to the person receiving the criticism. Why do people almost always resist your well-meaning corrections? When someone receives unsolicited feedback, their brain activates the exact same neural pathways that register physical threats. The human brain perceives your critique as a direct psychological attack. The renowned psychologist Carl Rogers offered a profound insight into human change. He observed that an individual begins to transform only when they feel truly accepted. The inverse of this principle is equally powerful and undeniable. When a person feels rejected, they immediately construct strong psychological defenses. When you point out someone's flaw, they do not hear helpful advice. They hear a painful message that tells them they are fundamentally flawed. Consequently, they will either fight back, withdraw into silence, or quietly pull away from you entirely. Without a foundation of complete acceptance, genuine personal growth can never truly begin. To understand this emotional phenomenon deeper, let us break down the 3 defining traits of people who constantly correct others. First, they possess a high level of hidden internal anxiety. They use external control as a mechanism to stabilize their fragile emotions. They cannot endure unpredictable social situations, so they force others to conform to their strict standards. Second, they struggle to separate their own identity from others. They treat independent choices made by friends as personal insults to their values. They lack the capacity to honor psychological boundaries in relationships. Third, they confuse task orientation with genuine emotional connection. They rush to solve problems rather than sitting with uncomfortable feelings. They offer solutions because they cannot tolerate raw human vulnerability. Alongside these individual traits, modern society perpetuates several dangerous myths about feedback and personal development. The first myth claims that radical honesty always deepens human intimacy. We are told that true friends must always speak the hard truth. However, raw honesty without timing or empathy is merely unrefined cruelty without psychological safety. Unasked honesty shatters trust rather than building it. The second myth claims that pointing out mistakes accelerates personal growth. Society assumes that people need sharp criticism to stay accountable, yet psychological research shows that threat responses close the mind to learning. People do not evolve through shame, they evolve through feeling safe. The third myth claims that good intentions justify intrusive behavioral corrections. Many people excuse their harsh words by claiming they meant well, but good intentions cannot erase the emotional damage of crossed boundaries. Impact will always matter far more than your underlying motivation. How can we replace this destructive habit with genuine empathy? We can adopt 3 simple micro-practices to build deeper connections. First, ask for consent before offering any form of advice. Before sharing your thoughts, ask a simple clarifying question. Are you looking for practical advice, or do you just need space to vent? This single question transforms a potential boundary invasion into a conscious dialogue. It allows the recipient to choose whether they have mental space. Second, practice quiet emotional validation. Instead of offering immediate solutions, when a friend expresses exhaustion, avoid telling them to manage their time better. Instead, simply validate their experience by saying that sounds incredibly heavy. When a colleague complains about a difficult workplace project, acknowledge their hard effort by saying it is genuinely tough. Offering quiet presence is infinitely more powerful than fixing their problems. Third, learn to embrace silence. When your opinion is uninvited, remind yourself that holding your tongue is not an act of indifference. Silence is a profound expression of respect for their independent journey. It demonstrates that you trust their innate capacity to navigate life. Now, let us consider the opposite scenario in our daily lives. What should you do when someone points out your own flaws? First, listen calmly without immediately building up your defensive walls. Treat their feedback as a mirror that reflects their internal world. Recognize that their critique may say more about them than you. Second, pause before making any hasty decisions to change yourself. Ask yourself 3 crucial questions to evaluate their input carefully. Does this person truly understand my values and core aspirations? What is the true psychological motivation behind their critical feedback? Will changing this serve my growth or merely calm their discomfort? If the answers suggest control, politely offer a neutral response. You can simply say, "Thank you for your perspective. I will consider it." Then, quietly return to living your life on your terms. We arrive at a beautiful philosophical paradox regarding human growth. A person rarely changes because someone pointed out their flaws. They change because they felt deeply seen, understood and accepted. When an individual feels that they are acceptable as they are, they finally possess the emotional energy required to evolve naturally. But when they feel constantly judged, their energy is consumed by self-defense. The greatest gift you can offer another human being is not a roadmap for their self-improvement. It is the steady comfort of your unshakable presence alongside them. As we conclude our discussion today, I invite you to reflect upon one quiet question. Where in your life can you replace correction with quiet acceptance? If you found value in this video, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing our discussion today with someone who might need this gentle perspective. Thank you for listening, and take care.